and I'm here, right? That's what we do as educators. So
All right, listen, I just figured out what the issue was, Charles. I'm sorry to do this to you. So we have not been recording.
I saw the little schedule and I was like, maybe it's different when you do it in advance.
We have not been recording. That is a blooper reel. If you caught it all, you witnessed it here. Oh, what a bummer. So we're here. Sorry about that. We're around for about 2.5 minutes without starting the broadcast. Anyways, welcome to the Unlocking Unlimited Potential Stories show, the Summer Thrive edition. Sitting here next to, I'm trying to figure out my thumbs. I'm going to get this someday. There he is, Charles Williams. Charles, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Brandon. I know we had those technical difficulties, but that's okay, right? It's life, like we talked about before we started the show. It's how things are. It's what we experience as educators. But things are going great, and thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
No, I appreciate it. So we were scheduled for a podcast for the Unlocking Unlimited Potential Stories show a month or two ago, and talk about technical difficulties. It was like the minute the show started and I had one of my own children run down here with like a cut on her finger thinking we needed to go to the hospital. She is okay. I want you to know that, everybody. Yes. She is okay. However,
all the digits.
That is just the kind of things that happen when you constantly do a live show from your basement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life, right? You have the family upstairs these days. You're down here. They're taking care of everybody up there. And now you're here and you're doing your thing. And it's just good to be here. So, Charles, talk a little bit about your journey, man, because I want to kind of tie in a little bit of the story show and also the Summer Thrive today. And I know we have some awesome learning experiences to chat about, especially one that you're going to today.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
So, one of the things I tell people all the time is that, initially I didn't want to be an educator. No plans to be in education. So I went to school for communications and English, and I started working at the school district where I went to school, as a PR person. And so the plan was to do some PR there. Then they asked, hey, can you teach English? I was like, yeah, and I fell in love with it, went back to school, went through a transition to teaching program, got my master's in teaching, started teaching. And like I think most people talk about, I said, I want to do more. I want to be able to do what I'm doing here, but on a larger scale, right? And so administration obviously came my way. And even that was not your traditional. So I became an AP one summer because my AP was out sick. So they were like, hey, can you cover for her? She wasn't coming back. So they were like, we want you to stay. It's like, great. So I had this plan with my principal at the time, shadow her for a good 5-6 years, build myself up, then become a principal. So the following summer I was in China for a program and I get a call. She is leaving and she's like, I want you to become the principal behind me. I was like, this isn't what we talked about, right? I've only been an AP for 1 year, but I threw my hat in the ring. Lo and behold, I became a principal. So this is, I think, year number 7 or 8 of being a principal. So it's been exciting. I've been in a few different schools. I started off in Northwest Indiana teaching, started my administration career there. And now I've been in Chicago for the last 6 years. So it's been a crazy journey, right? And if that wasn't enough, I've started a consulting firm. I'm speaking, I'm writing, I have an edu show, like, you name it. And for whatever reason, I'm trying to do it. I don't know why I do it to myself, but.
That is a great question. And I think you actually know the answer to that question, right? Let's, and why do we do these things? Why do we find ourselves, in what's for some of us maybe our time off, and why are we learning, and why are we still continuing to keep the fire lit? I think that's an important thing. You dig into that, and I know that you actually know the answer to the reason why. Let's not confuse that. I know I think talk a little bit about that. What's your why, man? I mean, why do you do all of these things? You listed about 9 different things that are happening in your life, all related to your work. You didn't even talk about the other parts of your life. So just talk a little bit about the education side and why. What's your why?
So I'm huge on making sure that students have opportunities, right? So I don't have that story. I love when speakers are like, I was that bad kid. I was always in the principal's. Like, I was the perfect student. My teachers loved me. My administrators loved me. But that's because I knew how to school, right? I fit the model of what they wanted. But I realized in my career, like I was unique because a lot of my friends, my siblings, they didn't fit into that mold. And so they weren't, the top student, they weren't on the honor roll. And it wasn't because they didn't have skills or they weren't smart. It's because they didn't fit the mold. And so my goal is that I want to break that, right? We talk about equity, we talk about, access and opportunities. And I really want to break that to say, hey, I don't care if you're book smart or street smart or you got this talent or this skill. You are going to be successful and you're going to have an amazing time in school because we're going to figure out how to make school fit you, not how to make you fit school. And so that has been my purpose in all of this. And so, expanding from the classroom to an administration, and then from an administration to say, how can I influence, the country or people from around the globe, in this edu-sphere, just really trying to say, we've got to change things. And that is my why. That is why I try on every avenue possible to deliver that message over and over again and connecting with educators like you who are like-minded. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, the idea too, a lot of it is inspired from within, and how much of it is really inspired from our school story.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about that, even if, and your story in many ways too, like you had a pretty good school story. It's not the fact that like always that someone has a terrible school experience, because there's a lot of educators out there, and I'm one of them as well. And I know we all have those instances in our lives of being in school and all those moments, or that one specific classroom or that one specific teacher or someone, who maybe made a decision that really affected you negatively, right? But there's also a lot of people out there who come from a positive place. Like, hey, my experience as an educator is really around the idea of, hey, I had a good experience in school and I want to try to make that better. However, now that I'm an educator, I see different things. I see things. I see this idea. For you, I know it's a lot about talking about access and equity and culturally responsive teaching. And I know that's a big wheelhouse of yours, and it's an important wheelhouse. And I always say this. It's still, to me, is a little mind-boggling, and I'm sure you agree that, it's 2020, 2021, and now equity is coming into the picture. Like, hey guys, this equity thing is important now, and I feel like that it should have been important the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things, and I talk about this. It's like it's a buzzword, right? We're back on it. It's like, but we've been doing so-called reform for centuries, right? Like, oh yeah, we got to change education, but we're not really reforming anything. We're just simply repackaging it. That's what I say, right? Because we make it look nicer, but it's the same concepts. And so right now it's a theme, right? It is what's hot in this country, and my hope is that we utilize this to actually make something happen, and that when it dies down, that we still continue pushing with the same intensity, the same energy. So it's not just a trend, and we've seen that, right? That's what education is. It's trends over time. So I really hope when we're focusing on equity, and that's everything, race, gender, identity, right? Everything, that we actually stick with it and make meaningful, lasting changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that those are popular learning experiences that are happening this summer. I've been contacted and talked to many different organizations, and they are always, one of the first questions they've been asking, and I've been hearing a lot from all these organizations, is, can you do something on equity? Can you do something on, on access and can equitable resources? And can you do something on, this whole thing? And I hear it all the time. And obviously my answer to that question is a very difficult answer because, not to dive in and state the obvious, I am a white male. But the thing is my answer to that question is, yes, I can do that. And I can bring in some awesome people that are great. And, like yourself. However, the other thing becomes like, but I also realize that my situation is different. And I know that this might be an uncomfortable, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations. However, I'm willing to dive into the uncomfortable conversations and open the door. And, to me, like how much, and for educators, it's more, can we really, it's that social emotional learning piece. right? I even say that it's funny because I know you read my book. I even say that in my book, like culturally responsive teaching, social emotional learning, growth mindset, like they're not three separate things, right? And it's all about how do we educate the individual. And, you know, how far our schools, we've all realized after the pandemic, how far our schools got away from that. And this whole idea of standardized testing and measurement and how we use data, right?
No, absolutely. You know, and I've shared this story before. When I became principal of the school here, it was on the verge of being shut down. Like literally, it was like, welcome to Plato. And by the way, your school is slated to be shut down. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. Give me an opportunity to change the school around. Right. And in year number one, I got 2 years to do it. Year number one, I mean, we did all the textbook things, right? We changed curriculum, we changed teachers, we did everything that you're supposed to do, and nothing changed, right? I swore, I was like, yeah, we've got it. Look, I told you I've got it. And at the end of that time, our scores barely moved. And so the following year, or that summer, actually, we looked at something we have, it's called the 5 Essential Survey, which is essentially an SEL survey. And we realized teachers weren't happy and students weren't happy. And so we focused the next year on how do we make you want to be in this building? How do we pour our love into you? And everything from that moment changed, right? And so you're absolutely right. When the pandemic hit, I was like, guys, we have to do what we've been doing. We have to continue loving on each other, taking care of each other. Like everything else will be okay. Like this idea of learning loss. And I know it's debated, but it's like nobody's losing anything. Like, maybe we pause learning for a little bit, but we're focusing on growing the person. And I guarantee you, when we reopen, like we're going to pick right back up and we're going to be okay. Like it's okay. It's not like everybody just forgot how to school or I forgot how to multiply. Like none of that stuff was lost. It was just a matter of what is most important right now. And most important was loving on our people. And when we did that from the get-go, like remote learning for us was a breeze. And people were asking, well, how is it so easy? I said, because we're focusing on people, right? It's really simple concepts. But, you know, I say these things like you can't really measure that, right? You can't monetize it, or people I'm sure will figure out a way. And that's why people get upset. The big textbook companies are like, wait a second, we don't have a standardized SEL exam at the end of the year to like, so I'm not making money off of it. So let's not focus on that. But that's just me. I'm speaking my truths.
Are you kidding? That's 100%, 1000% accurate. I mean, think about that. Like people in a lot of times, and this is important for school leaders, especially looking at this new perspective, because we're talking about summer learning. Here's your summer learning right here. So we're going into the new school year, and certain things happened in the last school year that were created because we had this little freedom. We had this little hope. We had this little, hey, we really need to worry about the kids more. That's kind of the message that was being sent.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't go back to the old ways on day one just because you're worried about the measurement. Mm-hmm. Because, hey, maybe some states had standardized assessments, some didn't. I know most of them did. But the standardized assessments, like if we're going back to the way of using just standardized assessments to measure how we're going to operate as a building and as a district or, you know, as a community, it really says something about whether or not we're looking at this the right way. I mean, it's a very simple concept, but sometimes people and communities and even parents may not necessarily support what they can't typically see measured.
Right. Yeah, you know, and I love the fact that you said this. And so I know I was telling you that I listened to the first episode on Monday. And
shout out to Jesse Lubinsky.
Yes. And Jesse, I want to say thank you because you introduced me to revisionist history, which was amazing. And the very first episode I listened to was college rankings, right? And so this idea, again, it's like these superficial numbers applied to schools. And if you really took the time to try to figure out where these numbers came from or how these rankings exist, you'll learn that a lot of times it's extremely exactly that, right? Superficial. So the same thing when we're taking all of these assessments and these scores and things come out, it's difficult because parents and other people, if they're not in education, really don't know how to dive deep into what does that number actually mean, right? If this school is a 1 and this school is a 3, what does that actually mean? I just know I'm sending my kid to that one school just because it has that number. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm terrified of what will happen when we come back if those high stakes standardized testings will become a metric again, because we can't just all of a sudden say, all right, well, we're back in school. SEO doesn't matter anymore. Like it did during the pandemic, but not now. Like we can't.
Yeah, back to every minute of realizing that if there is not necessarily a learning objective in front of them, then they are not learning. Well, sometimes there's no learning objective for the 3 kids in the class experiencing, issues with each other. The one kid in the class who lost her father a year ago, and then the other kid in the class who just hates school, right? There's you can't measure that. But however, you can measure their progress by, are they showing up and saying good morning? Are they showing up and actually like smiling as they walk in the door? Mm-hmm. What's their body language? What's the way that they carry themselves in the hallways? Are they talking to their classmates more? Are they going into an isolated position? Like, and that also goes to me, like looking at summer learning experiences too, like finding time. It may not necessarily be that, hey, you can go to a conference, you can do this, but you may already know that there's a tool out there. There's a podcast out there. I mean, there's 10 million podcasts out there. There's live shows. There's other groups and organizations that are doing awesome, amazing stuff. And you can even join a Twitter chat. Whatever it is that you're looking for, there is an avenue. There is an easy way of learning that you can create for yourself at your own time and at your own pace.
It's, I think, Brandon, that's one of the beautiful things about what this cyber edu world has created for us. I mean, think about it. When we were in education, even like, 5-10 years ago, like if I wanted to learn and grow, I had to get in my car or get in a plane, fly to a conference somewhere, right? Sit in a room with other people. And I was limited to what was happening in that space at that time, right? If there were 5 different sections that I wanted to go to, I had to pick one, right? That has all been torn apart because now I don't even need to leave my house. I can pop onto the computer. I could watch a recorded session later. I could connect with educators from around the world and learn and grow from them. And not only, as we've talked about with our students, not only do I have to be a consumer of this information, but I also have an opportunity to be able to process it and then be a creator and put my information back out into the world to where it now fuels other people. And that's what I was just talking to, I think Tracy about this, that we have these circles, right? Where we are learning and growing from each other. And we're not trying to one up one another. We're not trying to outshine one another. It's like we are pushing each other forward and we are all becoming better educators as a result. And so you're absolutely right. Like if you should invest in yourself, and there are plenty of opportunities. There's no excuse on why you would not be investing in yourself.
You heard it here. There's no excuses. There's no excuses. The show was actually named because I hate the term summer slide. I hate it when it's used. I don't like it because I believe it's like a deficit mindset, right? The summer slide. It's real. It's out there. Yes, kids may, not, but, may not grow as much in reading levels over the summer or, mathematically or other areas, but there are some that do. However, they're still people. And that's why when we say the word summer slide, we can completely negate the progress that they're doing as an individual, the growth that they're doing as a character and as a person and as a human, and I feel like it's changing the mindset completely of how do we, as we go and educate these students, how do we prepare them with the tools so that they can function in the summer and they're operating their own learning? Why are we always the ones providing and putting these learning experiences in front of our kids? The way that we're as educators, why are we as educators running out there and going to all these 9 million events? Why are people listening to this show? Why are people, because they want to learn? Well, how do we get our students to be like that?
No, I love the fact that you said that. We're not the gatekeepers of that information, right?
Right.
And we say that all the time, but if that's the truth, then students could still learn during the summer. And the one other thing I wanted to throw in there was that we talk a lot about the way we teach. And if you really believe in summer slide, which we know these things exist, my purpose is that if you're really teaching students, you don't have to worry about that slide. But if you're doing, superficial basic learning where students aren't really ingraining and understanding it, then when I come back after 3 months, because now I'm bored, I don't want to do another one of your worksheet packets during the summer. Maybe I forgot how to conjugate a verb. I mean, I'll catch back on. But if I really had that learning experience in your classroom where I was utilizing that information, guess what? There's no slide. So I say this to educate, like, I'm so tired of us pointing the finger at our students all the time. Like, what role do we have in this? And it's not just to say we're at fault all the time, but it's when are we going to sit back and reflect and say, how could I have made that better? How could I have contributed better? And so for those of you educators who are working your butts off and you're doing an amazing job and reflecting, that isn't for you. This is those who are just throwing that lesson out there and be like, hey, I taught it. They should learn it. It's not on me.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that, and it's been a wild summer. And I know we were just talking about you're going to a summer learning experience in person today.
Yeah.
So shout out a little bit, talk to us a little about where you're going.
Yeah, so as if the podcast and show and the book and everything else was not enough, I actually have three things this month. So today, after I get out of here, I'm going to be hopping over to the National Association for Elementary School Principals. Their conference is running right now, so I'm supposed to be there. Shh, don't tell anybody. So it runs this weekend. So if you're there, I'm looking forward to seeing you. So happy to connect with so many educators in person finally. On the 21st, we have our Rock Your Leadership Conference. Darren was on yesterday, so Darren's going to be at that conference. So if you're a fan of his, join me, him, Matthew Joseph, and P. Sloan Joseph. I just realized that they both had Josephs in their names, just as I said that.
Me too.
So that's on the 21st. And then at the end of this month, my show Inside the Principal's Office, we have a live meetup in Dallas. So if you're in the Dallas area, please sign up and come join us. Me and Michael McWilliams, my co-host, going to be a phenomenal event. So yeah, and that's just July. So, again, no excuses, plenty of opportunities to learn, to connect, and to grow together.
Yeah, those are awesome. NAECP, shout out. We got a couple of friends that are speaking over there. We got Robert Breyer speaking over there. Who else we got? We got Bobby speaking there.
Yeah, in fact, their session
They're speaking together.
So I'm hoping when I get out of work, that is going to be the session I hit. I miss Tara. Tara's was this morning. Tons of people are in Chicago this weekend, so I'm super excited.
That is awesome. I'm shouting them out into the chat. I'm also shouting out Tara. Shout out Tara. Good luck to you guys over there today. I'm sure you're impacting and serving others as always. Great to hear that you're continuing to do that. Shout out to Adam Welcome. I know Adam Welcome is also out there. Mm-hmm. I see him posting pictures of runs and with awesome groups of people. So shout out to everybody there. Hope everybody's having an awesome time. We're an in-person concert. I should say concerts, in-person conferences. That's just me because I'm a musician, so I feel like my conferences are like concerts when it's going to be like a present. So you gotta, it's going to be like a rock concert. It's so awesome. You think about how long it's been, since we've been in person. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, big shout out to Jeff Gargis from the Teach Better team. In fact, he's coordinated a meetup tonight. And so, Michael Earnshaw from the Punk Rock Classroom, that podcast, he's actually a Chicagoan as well. So just a great opportunity to be able to connect. And so again, we talked about learning, which is super important, but we also talked about that SEL component. And this is one of those aspects that is important for you to be able to connect just with other educators and not to talk shop, but to just say, hey, I need this, right? I need that connection. I just need to bond with another human being. And so definitely working on the SEL tonight with some food and beverages.
Yeah, that's awesome. and there's more experiences coming. And it's just also good that there are hybrid experiences as well for those times where you can't necessarily, like for guys like me who have a 7-month-old, I can always jump in on a computer, so it's good to be able to offer that option. However, as educators, one thing we all know, it's way better to be teaching, presenting, speaking to people right in front of you. But you got to do what you got to do. You got to make the learning accessible, the same way we do with our students. I appreciate that more than you absolutely will ever know. So, looking at summer learning and stuff like that, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. So I'm going to do a little 3, 2, 1. A lot of this is going to reflect on the awesome stuff that you have already told me today. And I've been doing this with all of my people. So the first one is, we got to talk about self-care. 3 recommendations that you have for self-care this summer.
So know when, first of all, know when to unplug. I know it's super tempting. Every time I look up, I'm getting invited to another workshop or a conference or a session. And I know I just promoted like 3 of them. So like this may sound so defeating, but know when to take a break, know when to unplug, know when to say, okay, enough's enough. I'm going to step away. And so connecting with that, I think it's important to get out into nature. I just read an article in Men's Health the other day that talked about the importance of being in nature, right? So anything from a simple walk on a walking path to actually like immersing yourself in nature. Like I know you and I were just talking about being at the beach, just getting out of your space and being out in nature. And I think the third one is just knowing when to say no. I think that's another one here. And again, something we were talking about is it's very, depending on who you are in the space you're in, it's very tempting to say, yeah, like I'll do this, I'll do that. And you find yourself overburdened and burning yourself out. And, when my wife sometimes is like, when are you going to stop? Like, but you can do it to yourself, and you got to be very, very careful with that. So it's okay to say no to certain things, because I think we think we're going to miss out on an opportunity. But if that opportunity was meant to be, it's going to find its way back to you somehow, just like we talked about, right? We connected some time ago and it just didn't work out, and we're back here again. So don't worry about missing out. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen.
That's awesome. All right, that's one. You got to give me 2 more.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Unplug and get outside. I was trying to build all those things.
I was following the recap, the unplug, the don't know when to say. I got it. Okay. So know when to say no, unplug.
And get outside, get into nature.
Get into nature. I appreciate that. Awesome. The second question. I mean, because you were really good there with the first one. So let's see how you do in this one. 2 examples of free learning opportunities. You've named a couple already, so you can even recap the same ones.
Yeah. So I would love to say that the 2 or the 3 that I mentioned that I'm doing are free, but they're not. There's costs associated with them.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to say free, I will say this. 1, join inside the principal's office. Shameless self plug there, but we do every other Saturday. So the next one is actually on the 17th. So join.
Is there a social media tag that they can follow? What is it?
So follow either myself or follow School Rubric. And you'll be able to see it. So that one is produced through School Rubric. Or follow my co-host Michael McWilliams out of Texas. So those are great. It's called Inside the Principal's Office, but it's really for any educational leader. And when we say educational leader, that means you could be any educator at any position because you are a leader. So please make sure you could join us there. And then I will also say jump onto a social media platform. I'm big on Twitter. I love Twitter. I don't mean big. I mean, I prefer Twitter. But find a chat, find a group, find a PLN, or as Alfonso says, a PLF, your professional learning family, and just connect. I think one of the best things, and I say this, you have brave safe spaces and safe spaces, right? Find that safe space of people that you could connect with. Venture out into those brave spaces, learn something new, become vulnerable, get some information, and then bring that back to that safe space and share it with your family. That is what we do. As like Brandon and I in Codebreaker, we do that all the time. So definitely there's so many learning opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to all those amazing people that are doing great things, that are also teaming up in these ventures as well. And everybody, all those awesome people that you've named already are such good people. And getting on social media, I recommend Twitter for educators, honestly. I think that's where a lot of the great content is. I'm a professor and I teach graduate students getting their ESL and TESOL degrees, certifications. And the one thing I say to them is, you got to be on Twitter. Yeah. And if you've never participated in a Twitter chat, you got to participate in a Twitter chat, at least watch a Twitter chat if you don't want to participate, and just think about the answers you would write. But it's such a easy, quick, awesome, self-reflective and positive learning experience that I highly recommend. All right, the last one. One way to celebrate you.
You know what? So I think if I'm going to talk about myself, just take time to do something that you truly enjoy. And I know Brandon pointed this out at the beginning when I introduced myself. He's like, everything you mentioned was work, right? So find a way to celebrate yourself doing something that you enjoy, whatever that thing may be. Whether it's, taking a walk, reading a book, taking a journey somewhere, testing out a flight of craft beers. That's mine. Just celebrate yourself somehow, of disconnecting again and saying, it's not a work thing. This is not something I have to do, but just find that thing that you truly enjoy. And that used to be a hard thing for me to answer. I would challenge my staff to it, and then they would ask me, and I would try to like skirt around it. And they're like, no. Like, how do you take care of yourself? Right. And I'm glad that they did that, because that's the relationship we have. So I really had to think about it. So yeah, find a way to celebrate yourself by doing something you enjoy, not for others. And I know as servant leaders, we do that a lot, but do it for yourself, not for others.
Yeah, no, 100%. That is, we have to take the time to celebrate us, because with all the work and all the support and all the places that we are as educators, when your role is to serve others, it can be exhausting. I mean, it keeps you, we all know, I mean, as educators, it keeps you up at night. It wakes you up early in the morning. It stresses you out because you don't have the lesson plan, or you're having the issue with the faculty member, or you're always in a state of worry in some way, shape, or form sometimes, and anxiety, that you got to remember that, hey, there's sometimes, going back to all your things, yes, you got to say no sometimes. Yes, you got to unplug, and yes, you got to be able to get outside, but you also got to be able to just, take some time for you. Right. And whatever that is, and try to find time to take a little time for you every single day. If there's 5 minutes of meditation, whether it's, a 10-minute walk outside, get moving. Michael Hines, the author of Staying Grounded, and an awesome guy and friend, and wrote the foreword for Unlocking Unlimited Potential. He recommends that, real simple thing in his book as well. And when he talks about having good habits and how important habits are, and he tries to get 30 minutes of work each day is one of them. And he wakes up at 4:45 in the morning, and he doesn't touch social media at different days. Just makes me think about how he just kind of walks his talk, and how another awesome educator. And so don't forget to take time for yourself. No. There's two people, Charles, there's Michael, there's a third, there's myself. We're all telling you to make sure you do that. So listen, Charles, the best way to contact you is right there. It's been in front of the screen the whole time, to reach out to you, to see all the awesome stuff you're doing. I highly recommend you follow Charles. He is an awesome person, and then he also participates in a ton of Twitter chats, so he has great content as well, and they're always coming out. And plus, the Inside the Principal's office is fantastic. School Rubric is an awesome organization, and they're great and doing awesome things that now gives you a global perspective, right? That's the awesomeness. So, Charles, I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate you joining in on the Summer Thrive edition. Let's not forget, we've had an awesome week thus far. I kind of did it at the beginning, but we weren't filming, but I'm gonna do it now, because I do want to give a shout out to the awesome people that have been on this show so far. So shout out to Jesse Lubinsky, Georgina Dean, Darren Peppard, and now Charles Williams. And tomorrow we are looking forward to wrapping it up with Tisha Richmond. So thank you all for joining us. Remember the journey toward unlocking unlimited potential in all whom you serve. It begins with you. And remember, as we head into this summer, educators, you have to answer this question. You have a choice this summer. Which one will you choose? Will you choose to stop and dive, or grow and thrive? Continue to educate with passion, everybody. I appreciate you, Charles. Have an awesome day. Enjoy the NAESP conference in person, and enjoy those drinks with Jeff Gargis and the crew.
I shall. You do the same. You take care, sir.
All right. Take care. Have an awesome day, everybody.